Hey guys, long time no talk. I wanted to make a video. This thing keeps popping into my head every time I think about Neville Goddard's self-concept, or simply just the idea that the outer is reflective of the inner. So anything that you see outpictured in your life is coming from something that you are holding as a belief or an idea in your mind. I think this is 100% the case, which is not to say that if a tragedy befalls you, that it's your fault in the traditional, thinking of fault. But I do think that that is how this all works, because I think this is a simulation of some kind. And I just think that is how the programming works. I think that's how the program plays out. I have overwhelming anecdotal evidence, which is the only thing that is currently available to base a decision on. But so this thing keeps popping into my head. Like every time. I made a post about this in the community section. I'm sure it's still there. Years ago, I posted a segment of The Price is Right, the American game show. If you're not familiar with it, The Price is Right has been around forever. And it's just it's an hour-long TV show that is made up of 6 different little mini game shows within a larger game show. And they have 100 games or something that they just pick 6 every day. And there's this one game that reminds me always, every time, I think of it every time, of how changing your self-concept changes the outer world. I probably should have looked up the name of the game show, the particular mini game. If you know what it is, leave me a message in the comments. Leave the name of the game show in the comments. I'm not going to bother looking it up. I know somebody's going to know. I know that there is a Price is Right fanatic watching this right now. But so the little mini game that always pops up for me, the concept is, the rules of this game are, the contestant has 4 prizes that they can win, and they have to put the correct price on the prize within 30 seconds. So they're given 4 prices. They have 4 prizes, and within 30 seconds, they have to run to the 4 prizes, put the correct price on. They have to get them all right, I think, and then they win all 4. And so when the timer starts, they run and put prices on, and then they run over to this box with a big button on it, slap the button, and the screen will tell them how many of the prizes they have correctly priced. And then so they have to run back and try to fix it until they get all 4 right. And in my memory, generally, it's pretty difficult to win this game. I'm not sure. I don't remember if they win the prizes that they do get right or not. But anyway, I always think of this every time I am thinking about self-concept, because it's like, if you have a thing that you want, and it's your self-concept that is preventing you from getting it, because you believe that in the law of as above, so below, that the outer is reflecting the inner, which I do. I have tons of evidence of this at this point. So the law is not in doubt for me. So anytime something in my life isn't going right, or there's an area that is, gummed up or whatever, I immediately think this is a self-concept issue. And what is the self-concept problem? What is it that I'm believing or feeling towards this thing that is causing it to show up in this less than ideal state? That's the puzzle for me. That's the route I take. This could just be my wiring. I'm not sure this appeals to everybody. So, take that as you will. But if there's a problem, I like to try to solve it proactively. And so it can be just like this game show. It's like you change a belief, and you wait and see. Did this fix the problem? Like, is this correct? Did I fix the right thing to produce this desired outer result? And it's funny because I found personally, and this is why I think it's so important to try to change self-concept rather than just imagining an end state, and hoping that you end up there or whatever. Even if you believe you will end up there, you don't always, the law is the law If imagining an end state doesn't change whatever about you needs to change in order to have that thing, it's not going to happen. It's not like imagining is magic. Imagining is a tool for change. Sorry for the segmented thought there, but sometimes most of the time, I think, if you have an outer issue that's occurring, it's not necessarily from a parallel inner belief. So it's not like if you are having troubles, in relationships, if you're having like a problem finding a partner that works, it's not necessarily that you have thoughts directly about relationships that are preventing that. When you change beliefs and core parts of your self-concept, you kind of both have to be aware of that change, what it was, and then aware of what's happening in your life so that you have a prayer of making the connection between the change and the outer event, outer change, outer whatever. Because often it's not parallel, often it's, with hindsight, you can say, oh, wow, this thought that I was having about people was creating this issue in this other area. And it wasn't until I started really like exploring what I think about people that I then noticed that this other thing shifted completely. And now I see, with hindsight, I see how these beliefs about people were creating this like issue with my career, for example. Things you would never have connected. Things that if you were looking directly at the career problem, you would have been barking up the wrong tree. You would have been thinking about, an entirely different area than the problem was stemming from. I hope that any of this is making sense. This is why I always think of the Price is Right thing, because it's like this constant process of changing something. Changing the price on the prize is like, changing a belief, examining an inner issue, examining an inner orientation to the world, changing it, and then running and hitting the button to see, what the result was. What did this change? Did it change anything? Did it change the right thing? It's just funny. I don't know why I always think of that, because of how strangely this whole experience is woven together by beliefs and attitudes and thoughts, feelings. It's pretty intricate, but I find it to be a lot of fun. I find the whole thing to be really interesting and mind-blowing. I really feel like people who are missing out who don't pay attention to this stuff, because it's really not that hard to put two and two together about if you're paying attention to everything, if you're paying attention to your thoughts and your feelings. I don't mean obsessing or constantly thinking about it, but if you've kind of trained yourself to be aware of what sensations you're having physically about certain outer events, paying attention to these things and becoming aware of them helps you to understand how you're creating everything. It helps you to understand what your real thoughts and feelings are about certain things. There can be a big disconnect between your intellectual idea about something and how you actually feel and think about it. And I think a lot of people just go through their whole life never making any connection between those two things, which is kind of tragic, honestly. But I really feel like people are missing out who aren't aware of these things, because it's just so cool to see how the system is working, how the computer program is creating the simulation. And it's also empowering, because really, if you don't have any clue what to do for yourself, if you're looking at your life and you've gotten some bad advice online, to, change this belief, changing this belief will create this outcome. That is not true. At least in my experience, rarely is it ever that linear or parallel. It's rarely, if you've got an issue in your life, and you may have found this to be true from watching a lot of manifestation videos and taking the advice of the manifestation person and having nothing happen. It just doesn't work. Like, your affirmation about yourself just does not produce anything resembling what the intention was. This is why I think it's so important to decide who you want to be, not necessarily what you want to have. What you have will be a reflection of who you are and all of that. So this is why I think it's so important to decide for you, not anybody else, not to get something or someone, just for you. What do I want to be? What are my values? What are my interests? What am I here for? And start to build up a self-concept around the things that you value and want. Separate from trying to get money or get a relationship or get health or get whatever. Just thinking, how do I want to view myself? What is the person that I want to be? Who do I want to embody? When I sort of think of myself from an outside perspective, what do I want to see? What type of person do I want that to be? And again, trying to separate this isn't easy for a lot of people if you're not experienced with it either. Trying to separate that from the person that has the Mercedes, or the person that is stunningly beautiful, or the person that, is happily married. Like, those are all outer things. What I'm talking about is, when I look at this person, this is a person who is very reasonable. This is a person who is very charitable. This is a person who is strong in an emergency. That type of stuff. That was just off the top of my head. But, what type of person do I want to be? What kind of vibe do I want to give off? This like strong, peaceful vibe. Do I want to be, somebody who uplifts other people, like by being funny all the time, or stuff like that. I think building up that type of foundation is where you start to see, as you change things relating to those core things, the thing, like what you really want to be, what vibe you want to have, like what energy you want to have as a person. I want to be I want to be one of those people that completely accepts themselves. That vibe that people have? They're just amazing to be around because you can just tell they've completely accepted themselves and they don't judge anybody, and you don't feel judged in their presence because they don't judge themselves, that kind of thing. When you start building up something like that, it has a strange effect on your 3D outer. Like, some area of your life that you wouldn't think would be related to that suddenly has a major shift, and then you realize after the fact, wow, like building up that feeling of self-acceptance or whatever completely changed this other area of my life, rather than looking at that area of your life and saying, I now make $100,000 a year, or whatever people do. I don't know. I just think it makes a lot more sense to take that route and then just see what happens, see the connections between your real core self-concept and the outer. And then, how you tackle those remaining areas of dissatisfaction, I guess, parts of your life where you really want something else, and things still aren't where you want them to be with something. That, I think, is benefited from that process of changing self-concept, because as you do that, how you are creating things becomes more clear to you, and these problem areas reveal themselves. What's causing them reveals itself. But if you don't start somewhere, it's a big jumbled mess, and then you find yourself repeating affirmations that don't work. I hope any of that made sense. I hope any of that helped anyone. I felt compelled to talk about it. Have a great day.